I'm excited about talking about something that has affected so many people. And it's something that I believe that it's a hard conversation, but it doesn't have to be like that. I think more people are getting, more open about talking about this, and it's something that we all need to really talk openly about, so we can really heal the world. As so many people has been affected by that. And I am very interested in the whole concept of mindful healing. I think that sounds a very powerful way to help sexual abuse victims to go from feeling, powerless to feeling powerful. And I think that Jess is going to be an amazing guest to talk to us about this. Hi, Jess. How are you?
Hey, Angelica. I'm great. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited.
Thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for sharing with us, your story, your learnings, and everything as well. So, just tell us a little bit more about what led you to helping victims of sexual abuse, and in this journey that you are on now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, overall, I feel like it's important for us to use our experiences for us instead of against us. And so, I feel like the circumstances that I was dealt in life have set me up to be able to um, empathize with other people, to support them and guide them in their own experiences and challenges that they're working through. So, a little bit about my story. Growing up with an abusive father for 9 years, I was molested for 9 years there. And so, it, that impacted me in a lot of different ways. And it's probably going to be a lifelong, healing journey, but I've definitely been able to discover some tools and just some ways of thinking and acting that have helped me to more fully engage with life and live in the present. And that's what I love to help other people do as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for your courage. I can imagine it takes so much courage to even say that out loud. And I feel that, people who have gone through similar experience, they just hide away and they just stay so enclosed in their own kind of body and mind, feeling like, there is no way I can come out of this, because it's a family member. The family member might be still alive or might still be part of their life. And, what happens with the others? I mean,
Right.
how did you kind of have the courage to, not only kind of even say those words out loud, but just to come out with this, this massive trauma?
I think a big piece of it is creating a safe environment within yourself and also outside of yourself. So for me, fortunately, I did have a mom who was a safe space for me. And so when I felt like, I guess like everything kind of climaxed to a point when I was like 9 years old, and I got to the point where I was like, okay, like something's not right, like I felt to tell my mom, things that were going on as a 9 year old. And so luckily I was blessed to be in that situation where she was able to, kind of take things into her own hands and, get the law involved and everything and go through the court process. And, not every situation, well, every situation is different, right?
Yeah.
But fortunately, for mine, that was the last time that I saw him was when I was 9. And, he ended up going to prison and things for that and other things that he had done. But yeah, so I feel like having that safe space, knowing that I could go to my mom, like that was very important. Listening to the feeling inside of me, if I had just like ignored that, like who knows when I would have started speaking about it. I probably would have carried it with me for a long time.
Yeah. So at that time, so your mom wasn't living with him, so or were you? Oh, okay. So you spend time with him by yourself, and that's when it would happen.
Yeah, so my parents got divorced when I was about 6, and then I had to go on visits between households there. And so it had happened when I was younger too. And the thing was, my mom knew that stuff was going on, but the courts couldn't intervene until there was proof. And so me speaking up ended up being that proof.
Wow. Wow. So, I mean, it's a very difficult situation, right? Because I mean, maybe a kid will never be watching this, and you were
Right.
still like a child, right? Like at 9 years old. But this could be happening with a teenager. This could be happening even, you get so conditioned as a child to believe that something is normal when it's not normal, right? And that's when that gut instinct, that intuition is just saying to you, like, you've got to speak up. Like, can you tell us a few examples of, and you mentioned that, every client, that you worked with would be different, every situation will be different. What are some of the common things that you see as early adulthood that people really struggle with to kind of come to terms with, to come out with that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, in general, it is pretty common for people to wait like an average of 20 years to disclose their sexual abuse. So that is a big factor. Just even knowing how to talk about it can be very difficult. Um, Another thing that is a common problem is outsourcing the healing and developing negative coping patterns. So whether that's like drinking or excessive working out
Yeah.
or or we get addicted to these ways of thinking as well that kind of keep us in that victim mindset.
Yeah. And I think what you said is so important. I'm so passionate about this outsourcing healing, right?
Yeah.
Like you see, you see people doing this all the time, like I go and get, my physical health is being affected by something that is happening emotionally, like in physically, the sexual abuse. So I'm going to go to the doctors. I'm going to, get supplements. I'm going to go to the physio. I'm going to go to the osteopath. I'm going to go to the, kinesiologist. I'm going to go, and but it just keeps going. But the key thing, which is really healing yourself within yourself, like how can you give us an example again, like of somebody that you've worked with that's been outsourcing that, healing, and how you kind of transformed and helped that person's life?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked with one client who loved working out and would just go to the gym all the time every day. Just thought like it's good to be healthy, good to stay in shape.
Yeah.
But the intention behind it was more like running away from something instead of running to something. So we worked on like setting the intention and figuring out like, okay, why do I have this like compulsion almost to go to the gym, right? What am I running?
Hmm.
So we had to work on creating safety within and to be able to show up you know accountably with just being in alignment with with why they um, why they're working out, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just having the capacity to be with your own self, right?
Yeah.
Even though you have that inner voice going, like it almost like the workout is a lot of people that are type A personalities, they become addicted to the business, right? Like the business of life, and it could be workout, could be working, could be,
Yeah.
doing different things and putting themselves, grinding themselves down,
Yeah.
and the stuff, physical suffering, working out, and I have to be hurting, and you don't realize that that's, like you're saying, like this is not the intention behind it. It doesn't come from a place of self-love. It doesn't come from a place of self-care, right?
Yeah.
And being able to sit with yourself, feeling free, feeling okay, safe, like you mentioned before. I
Right.
think that's a very valid point that you mentioned there. So what else do you see, like, in regards to, by the time that people reach out to you, do they kind of, have they gone to maybe therapy? Have they gone to kind of the traditional, kind of conventional, path? And then they're like, like this is just hasn't got me anywhere. Like, tell us a little bit more, maybe an example of how that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick before I answer that, I just want to touch on what you said. I really love the point that you mentioned about self love, and it's like sometimes we, people who are trying to heal outsource that and be like, oh, well, the gym is going to make me feel loved, or this food is going to make me feel loved, right? But it has to come from inside of yourself first. So that can be the challenge.
Yeah.
So thanks for saying that. And then your question, yeah, a lot of times people have tried therapy, and there's definitely, you know, good aspects of that. I've gone to therapy myself as well.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, with mindful healing, I think it's all about the mind, body, and spirit. And so it can be kind of hard to hit all of those with just, you know, doing the talking therapy.
Yes.
I believe it's that movement has a big piece of that. So personally, I love martial arts, and so that's where I find that movement element that kind of combines everything together.
Yeah, I think what you said again, I so believe in that. Like a lot of our patterns are in our cells, right? In our bodies. You know, like I had a major issue with like anger, and you could go to therapy for 20 years, but if you don't undo that pattern inside your body, you know, by doing something with movement and whatever that is for each person. For me, it was yoga. It is still yoga. It's very hard for you to integrate the change because it just stays in the mind, right? So, and I think that what you said is so so important. So, and you know, what can you tell us an example of like one of the biggest wins, like that you're super proud of, like that you have helped a client again, you know, like to go through and you know, to achieve?
Yeah. One of my clients, when she first came to me, she had this like crippling fear of failure. And it was keeping her from going after her dream of being a violin teacher. She was afraid to fail, to just, you know, not get any clients or just be a bad teacher or whatever. But after just like 2 months of working together, like she got her first client, and you know, I asked her after those 2 months, and you know, I was like, hey, do you remember like your beginning like fear of failure? She's like, oh yeah, that's like not even a thing anymore. Like, I just accept that like failure can be part of the process, but it's not gonna hold me back, and like I'm gonna get it because I want it. Like I was just like so happy for her.
Yes, that's amazing. And the thing is, like something like that, you know, if you don't deal with the trauma of a sexual abuse, it can affect all areas of your life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And that's when you probably see like it's not just about dealing with that, but it's just the ripple effect, right?
Yeah, and I think maybe part of that could be like not feeling worthy, like I don't know, maybe not feeling worthy to be able to make a mistake and still like succeed after. Maybe that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like people's feelings of worthiness like shows up in so many different areas because they tied to it. It's like, you know, I should or I shouldn't do this or that, and that can really impact people in all areas of life.
Yeah, yeah. So what you know, you talk about worthiness and the self-love. What would you say are the kind of three patterns, maybe, or one, you know, 1 to 3 patterns that people developed after kind of the sexual abuse, you know, trauma?
Yeah. Well, there's definitely those like thinking patterns, right? So a lot of common ones is like I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy of XYZ, right? Or I'm unlovable, or I'm a burden. Like those can be some pretty common ones.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty common to develop behaviors where you're sabotaging your own relationships, you know, because you start acting in ways that where it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, you know, and that it all comes from your mind first, right? Because you have a thought, you act on it, which the result of that behavior is going to confirm like that belief that you originally held. So it's all about, you know, what am I thinking? What does it make me do? What am I truly believing and manifesting there?
Yeah, I think, and this is probably when you see the pattern of like from that child who's being sexually abused, and they you know, they get a boyfriend that, you know, it's mentally or emotionally or even physically abusive, and then they get another one and another one and another one, you know, and until you deal with the core issue, like you just keep repeating that pattern. Do you see that?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I think it's so easy to accept what is comfortable. So if that's all you know, if you're comfortable being treated like, treated terribly, like you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna, if you're not mindful of it, you're gonna like seek it out and just continue to put yourself in those situations. So that's where the mindful healing comes in. You start to recognize what's good and bad, what's serving you, what's not serving you, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what you deserve. Yeah.
And what would you say about setting boundaries, right? That must be, it's very much in line with what you just said, right? Like
Sure.
it's normal to you just to not have boundaries because people have been so invasive, right, in your own space that you don't know, right? Like so how do you help your clients to set boundaries?
Yeah. Something that is super helpful. One, can like, or have them like think through a situation that might come up, and just like practice like setting that boundary. Maybe I'll be that person, whoever they need to set that boundary with, and just practicing can help them build confidence. So when the time comes, like,
Yeah.
go for it. And then the other thing that I think is super super helpful is setting the boundary before you're in the situation where you need that boundary to be upheld, if that makes sense. So it's
It
like,
could be a family member or a friend or yeah.
yeah, it could be with anyone, like at work or at home or whatever. It's just like, before you get to that escalated like emotional state of being, like, you could just be like, I don't know, at the grocery store or whatever, like let's say with your mom, like, hey, like, I was thinking about this and blah 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 blah. You can take the initiative and bring that up, before
Yeah.
you are in that situation where you need that boundary to be enforced.
Yes, yes, yes. Just kind of almost like preempting that, like and practicing that when everybody's calm, not just when the situation is there. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you say to somebody who's, maybe watching this and thinking, but I just I can't even talk about what has happened to me. I can't. I'm too scared. I'm going to destroy my family. I'm going to, people, can't know, like what would you say to somebody who is in that position?
Yeah. The first thing that comes to my mind is just to have passion, to stop holding yourself to, I don't know, just like stop being so hard on yourself. Just recognize where you're at in your journey, and it's okay. It's okay where you're at,
Mhm.
and you don't need to necessarily proclaim it to the world. What's happened, or you know, you don't necessarily need to speak it. But I think it is important to intentionally address it by, you could maybe write it out, write
Mhm.
the experience out, or you could like paint it out. There's different mediums where you just need to get that, like, everything that you've been holding on to outside of your body,
Mhm.
because your body is like keeping yourself living in the past if you're not getting it out.
Yeah. Um, and I think that, what it is, I think it's important also to highlight like the power when you actually say it out loud. It's almost like when you don't say, would you say that you're still keeping that as a secret inside you and your body, right? Like, and again, like it doesn't have to be in the form of like, you don't have to write a post on Facebook, on LinkedIn, but
Yeah.
like there is a power. I think I saw Mel Robbins talking about like, keeping as a secret, that she kept a secret that they were going bankrupt for years or something like that. And that just keeps eating you alive. Um, what would you say it is the biggest win when we actually, share this with another human being, like yourself, like who has gone through it? And I feel that there is so much power, like, you understand that person so well and so much, and you can help that person. And
Yeah.
if that person just go to a painting class with the intention to heal, like there would be some healing, but there can't be, the healing that you can provide them. Can you talk a little bit through that?
Yeah, there's an important element of connection, when you speak it to somebody who's receiving it, um, and who can receive it in a safe manner. Like, sometimes people just don't have that safe person or a safe space to tell their story or work through things. And that's where it's really helpful to have a coach, like me, because like I'm there to hear you, to see you, to validate your experience, to figure out what's going on, like how we can get you from where you're at to where you want to be. And yeah, so, but that connection piece is important. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us about a moment in your healing journey that you kind of felt, did you had like a massive breakthrough, like did you had like an aha moment going like, I really feel this has lifted from my body, and mind and soul?
Yeah. I was thinking about a few years ago where I hit like one of the lowest points in my life, and I was just like, I was actually reading a textbook from college, and it was like talking about like leaning into life, and I just like had a light bulb go off, and I recognized that I had been like fighting my existence and like reality for so long. Like I had been trying to run away from all my pain, from the shame, anger, hurt, all that. And what I actually needed to do was to face it and to lean into it, at my own pace in a personalized way. So once I started doing that, like that really helped the self-love journey ignite, and things started going up from there.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's really powerful. And I think that, and that resonates with me as well. But, for me, it was like the cancer journey, sitting with my pain and the anger and all those, harmful habits that I had cultivated my whole life to numb my pain. How, like what I think we get so conditioned to be scared, to sit with that pain. We think like, oh, you know what, it's just so much easier just to keep drinking every night.
Right.
It's so much easier to just, ignore it and suppress or to work. I was a workaholic. It's so much easier to pretend. It's so much easier, like, all the self-sabotaging things like that we think it's easier, but in actual fact is just eating, us away. Like, what would you say to people that I think like, no, I still can't, it's so much easier to keep doing what I'm doing?
Yeah. You have really great questions. I love these. Awesome. I would just say take a few minutes, like just sit with yourself, think about like, okay, like whose life is this? Like you need to start taking yourself life seriously. Otherwise you're wasting away. You're wasting away the gift of life that you've been given and letting everyone else and everything else dictate the course of your future, So whatever you need to do to get the journey going, like, reach out to a coach, start journaling, talk to a friend, like, I don't know, just take a look in the mirror. Like, it starts with you. You need to take the steps.
Yeah, I think that is so powerful. And I think again, it's so easy to stay in that victim mindset, just to think like mentality, thinking like, yeah, but you don't know like what I have gone through, like it was terrible, it was this, it was that. And I think that like for me, it was very much like putting my head above the water and thinking, what, like I'm not the only one who's gone through hardship. Right.
Mhm.
I'm not the only one. And, we didn't choose, to go through the things, especially as a child. You can't say that you chose it as a child. But, I think that getting out of that state of like, but, this poor me state is really, really important. Right.
Yeah. You reminded me of an analogy that I love using with my clients. It's, sometimes we feel like we're just like drowning, or we're like treading water, or we're trying not to drown, right? But first you have to like, okay, look around, look at the water around you, acknowledge like, okay, it's scary, there's stuff going on. But when you develop your presence, when you trust yourself and create that safe space for self-love and growth, then you stop like freaking out trying to control everything, and then you like put your feet down and you realize the ground is right there, and you can stand and you can walk out and you're just fine. but you have to create that presence and stillness to be able to do that.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. Wow, that's very powerful. And what are some, if you could say like one or two things that you do daily to just ground yourself and put your feet on, on that earth underneath your feet, what would that be?
As simple as it is, part of my morning routine is just going outside and putting my feet on the ground, like literally, like just on the grass, not the concrete. I go like on the grass or the dirt, right? And I'm intentionally like, I'm imagining my inner child like next to me or like playing or whatever, and it just kind of helps ground me and connect with that inner child. And then the second thing I would say is breath work. Recognizing when in my body I'm like dysregulated and stressed, and then just like doing some deep breaths and just letting it out that way.
That's beautiful. That's powerful. And I think, like I said, it might like feel like oversimplistic, but I very much know the power of habits, and it's the consistency of doing this every day that you start lifting off that trauma from your body and mind. Have you felt that in your journey?
Oh yeah. I feel so much lighter, so much more free. And then you talked about that. You have to give yourself freedom. It's so true. And it's worth it.
Yeah, amazing. So now, how can people reach out to you so they can, connect with you? I'll add your links below, but like if they want to work with you.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So you can find me on LinkedIn, Jess Berry. And then I have my website, 𝗕𝗢𝗙𝗥𝗠𝗏, or you can email me at 𝗕𝗢𝗘𝗥@gmail.com. So those are the three main ways.
Awesome. Well, Jess, thank you so much for sharing your story, your learnings, and your journey. It's been very, very powerful. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate you, Angelica.
Take care.